The cases keep getting smaller and the sound keeps getting bigger. This is my first longer-term experience running a Shanling. Now, I've played a lot with this kind of gear in the past, but just that, played with it, dabbled, popped in a pair of earbuds, taken a quick listen. The folks at Shanling sent this over. This is the new UA4 dongle DAC for me to really live with it for a bit, really spend some time with it, and spoiler alert, it's great. I can't find any serious deal breakers. Now, we're in a golden age of affordable audiophile hardware. UA4 joins a portable conversation with some new tech and some fun controls to power a stunning price to performance. I just that quick little tour. It's a cute little shell with a cute little display. It's a bigger lump than some of the previous mini DACs that we've played with in the past, but it arrives with much better controls on device. USB-C port on one side, both a 3.5mm and 4.4mm balance output on the other side. The front face has the little ticker display and the top edge has the trio of controls. And touring those controls, gain, we have a 2-stage gain option here depending on the headphones you connect. You might need more oomph from the amp. Filter options, key mode controls, either the DAC volume, the host volume, or it can be used to skip tracks, a clear layout for adjusting balance. We can change up the font, control the brightness, activate a screensaver, even orientation flip the whole little DAC. And of course, idle, we can set the idle for the unit to settle down when it's not in operation. Internally, we're running a new ESS Saber DAC. I'm gonna post the specs somewhere on screen here directly from the Shanling site. I think those are some fun numbers to look at, where the UA4 is set to battle well against other dongle DACs that I've played with at higher prices. We're in a sweet spot where this isn't quite an impulse buy, but it's really accessible hardware for someone to consider taking a step up to higher quality. We want these devices to handle mixed listening really well. Move from a phone to a tablet to a laptop to a desktop. Have one nice little convenient device that can kind of follow us all around. You get a lot more mileage out of AudioKit when it can pull double or triple duty. And something like this should be a gateway drug for someone to consider more specific pieces for more specific conditions. I think these claims made by Shanling and ESS are well backed up in my listening. A major focus over the last couple years has been on reducing noise, reducing distortion, and ESS is now touting better power efficiency. Now, I've done most of my listening on some Odyssey gear. I still rock the LCD ones, and I really like the Euclids. I like their flavor of planar magnetic. But I've also started adding these to the mix. These are the Cineaptics. These are really funky ribbon headphones. I reviewed these last year. That combination of planars and ribbons on this Lil ESS DAC has been fun. It's excellent clarity, a nicely broad soundstage, and it's really crisp representation without feeling overly analytical or fatiguing. It's not enough to say, oh, it's got real good detail. Honestly, we've had inexpensive portable DAC satisfy that for a while now. I think it's fun to hear portable digital gear that doesn't sound quite as harsh or as digital as we used to hear. However we want to turn that word digital into a bad word. The influence from a DAC on your audio might not be readily understood by someone just getting started. And often, I'm not sure I even trust my own ears whenever I have to swap DACs and compare playback. Literally, the time in between plugging one headphone into a DAC and then switching, I feel that can influence my opinion just having that little bit of separation. But in my Cineaptic review, I tagged these ribbons as being just a little more brittle or harsh in the highs on a specific female singer track. The sibilance was just kind of piercing and I didn't enjoy it. And that might not have been the headphones, it might have been the DAC. Listening to that track again, but plugged into the Shanling, the track still has some sibilance. There's still that presence, but it wasn't stabbing me in the ear. Now, I often feel these comparisons of DAC output are hyper-specific to the listener and their individual biology and the state of their headphones, but that tone coming from the UA4 and how much better it played out on these ribbon drivers, the ribbons are crazy articulate for their price, and that might burn some people out. But paired with this new Saber DAC, I enjoyed this combination a lot better. It's definitely not dulling the clarity, but it's also not accentuating the stuff that I find uncomfortable. It's just giving everything a nicer color. The Shanling inspired me to revisit some of the DACs I've been playing with, and wouldn't you know it, older Saber DACs with these synaptic ribbons leaned hissy and a bit brittle on that sibilance. My iFi Griffin with Burr Brown chips, that was not as piercing. And now the new Shanling with the newer ESS chip, a bit more mellow too. This is a hyper-specific example of the influence a DAC can have over your whole listening chain. And if you're listening on headphones a bit more mellow, you'll probably never encounter what I did as an issue here. Now, the amp on board is nice and punchy, and I adore that we have on-device access to change up the amp without having to turn to an app or a program on a computer. It's just really handy to have it on device. Another reason I've started leaning on these Synaptic a bit more, ribbons seem to be even thirstier to drive than many of our planar magnetic solutions, especially near this price. And these only come with a 3.5mm cable, so without the benefit of the more powerful balanced output, we still had plenty of room and a good sound on the 3.5mm connector. I don't want to drop the cable. Just as a brief comparison here, I have my old DT770s, the 250 ohm Pro model. I find a comfortable listening volume on the high amp stage somewhere around 50% on the Shanling. And the Synaptic nudged that up to around 60% for similar output-ish. Kind of ballparking it. I actually don't have anything in-house right now on a balanced connector, which is particularly difficult to drive. Like, the extra oomph of this amp is totally wasted on my Odyssey Euclid earbuds. Not to say I don't plug them into the balanced connector, they just don't really need that much juice. So I just can't see where folks are gonna run into issues using a DAC like this, especially out and about with headphones that they would want to use out on the go. We've got enough headroom here. I think folks will have to attach a rather lopsided pairing to feel like this thing isn't really performing. Audiophile expectations can be tough to predict, and it might not deliver your exact preferred sound, but I think you need to be rather ungenerous in your analysis. Now, I also have to highlight the ESS power claim. This is a very well-behaved gadget. I like DACs like the THX Onyx, but those can run really toasty in your pocket. The Shanling, after some listening, is a little warm to the touch, and we're talking sustained playback over an hour, but I think you'll barely feel it. Performing even better there than something like a Helm Bolt, which is pretty close to this price. I think when people step up to nicer audio gear, what they actually noticed first isn't the DAC, but the amp. As a plug-and-play option, I think something like the Bolt or the Onyx will make a more immediate impression. Plug in the USB, plug in some headphones, and it gets real loud. The Shanling will ask users to scroll through a menu first to toggle the bigger amp output. That might slow a few people down, but when we consider that the Shanling is half the price of the Onyx and it gives you more room to grow, it gives you more to play with, and it improves on some of the DAC-specific elements of the Onyx, it's a pretty easy recommend. There's only one little gripe that audiophiles probably won't care that much about. There is no audio input on the UA4. That's not what this is meant for, but on the go, when you're connected to a phone, it can be nice to have an input for buds that have an inline mic. We take for granted that a good pair of Bluetooth cans can also find some additional life as a nice cabled headset. There's no option for taking calls here. This is a really good option at $100. We've got some fun gear to shop in portable audio, and maybe some solutions that can tackle wireless playback. But the act of plug in puck and listen on nice headphones, this is great performance for the price. So I will, of course, leave a link down below this video for more information on the Shanling UA4, where you can shop one of these bad boys online. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, and subscribing to the channel. All the support lately has been absolutely fantastic. Those of you who are clicking on links in the description, or hitting my home site, SomeGadgetGuy.com, or maybe you're joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon. Patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, basically at SomeGadgetGuy everywhere these days, spending more of my time on the Mastodons, a little time on Threads and Flickrs, a little less so on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Twitters, and I will catch you all on the next review.